Welcome to my channel. When the lights go out and the shadows grow long, I bring you spine-chilling tales of terror, haunting mysteries and supernatural scares. Join me if you dare on this journey through the darkness. And please subscribe. First, I'll tell you a quick story about why I will never go camping again. Hi, I'm here today. I'd like to share a terrifying camping experience that has left me with deep psychological scars. Despite numerous attempts to move on, this traumatic event continues to haunt my waking hours. I'm a 28-year-old woman who loves hiking. However, after this incident, I can't bring myself to step foot into a forest, let alone spend a night camping. I hope sharing my story will help me find peace and prevent others from experiencing similar trauma. For context, I grew up in a city and I've always dreamed of exploring nature and embracing the outdoors. However, as I grew older, my appreciation for nature remained solely confined to documentaries. In 2021, I met a guy named Mike online. He was everything I desired in a partner. We instantly connected and soon he proposed we should take a trip to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park for a romantic getaway. I agreed without hesitation. After booking a secluded cabin near the park, we spent a few days familiarizing ourselves with the area. On the second day, we discovered a breathtaking lake surrounded by dense woods. Despite my fear of camping, I opted for the challenge. We returned to the lake on Friday afternoon and began setting up camp. While setting up the tent, we encountered a group of locals who advised us to leave due to recent unfortunate events. Although initially hesitant, I trusted my boyfriend and we pressed on. We finished dinner by 9 p.m. and soon afterward, I retreated to the tent for the night. Mike preferred sleeping outside. After lying in the pitch-black tent for a while, I fell asleep. At around 4 a.m., I was awoken by a deafening roar that sounded like a freight train. Immediately, thoughts of bears and mountain lions flashed through my mind. I frantically started texting Mike, but his phone was off. I paced anxiously around the tent for what felt like hours. I considered escaping into the woods rather than staying in the tent. As dawn approached, I heard more unusual noises like stones hitting the tent and branches snapping. Throughout the morning, I experienced strange symptoms, including hives, muscle aches, and weakness. Finally, Mike returned to the tent and discovered my terrified state. Reassured by his presence, I calmed down and we packed our belongings. Upon reaching the car, we found a flat tire. After replacing it, we drove back home. Once there, I collapsed on the bathroom floor, trembling. I had a panic attack. Worried about my well-being, my mom took me out of work for the following week. I remained indoors and have not ventured back to the forest. Although my experience was traumatic, I'm grateful to be alive. The entire ordeal left me shaken and anxious. Sharing my story helps me process the trauma and connects me with others who've had similar experiences. Next, I'll tell you about a mysterious, abandoned house from my childhood. Hi, I'm the narrator. I'm here with my scary story. Growing up in Maryland, I've had many opportunities to visit various states, and I've even traveled abroad. One summer holiday, my family and I were traveling across the United States, visiting relatives and friends. We had already visited Illinois, Minnesota, and Colorado, and were on our way to Texas. Along the route, we planned to stop at various attractions and explore interesting places. Our trip took us through rural areas, giving me a chance to observe the countryside. I was struck by the sight of old houses and farms, realizing that life must have been very different just a few decades ago. At some point, we stopped at a gas station, and it was there that I noticed a man in his 50s who seemed intrigued by our license plate indicating our home state. He inquired about our travel plans, and upon learning we were heading towards Amarillo, Texas, he suggested a detour to a special destination. According to him, we would not regret it. Despite the suggestion being random and slightly concerning, we decided to trust the man's recommendation. He guided us onto a dirt road, warning us about its rough condition and advising us to drive slowly. Eventually, the road leveled off and we reached a ranch with a weathered sign reading, "Standing Deer Ranch." Situated amidst farmland, we wondered why we had been brought here. The man explained we could explore the ranch, assuring us there was no charge. We parked the car and stepped out to discover a dusty and dilapidated property. As we walked across the yard, I noticed a small red barn, and upon closer inspection, found an assortment of musical instruments, some old and some newer. There was even a guitar with a tag indicating it was purchased in July of that year. It was then that I realized the man at the gas station had likely wanted us to find this particular instrument. Our attention shifted to a large gray barn nearby. With the same curiosity, we entered and found a collection of antique farm equipment. The ranch had an eerie atmosphere, reminiscent of what I had read about haunted places. Suddenly, a dog emerged from behind some hay bales, startling us. The dog barked incessantly, seemingly agitated. Unable to endure the tension any longer, I wanted to leave, but my mother insisted we stay a while longer. As we explored further, I noticed a worn path leading to the back of the barn. Intrigued, I followed it, finding a staircase hidden by weeds and vines. The stairs descended into a basement. Curiosity compelled me to descend, but my mother called me back, expressing her discomfort with the location. Nonetheless, I could not resist and ventured into the basement alone. To my surprise, the basement was clean and well organized, almost like a museum. The walls featured a timeline showcasing the history of the ranch, which had been owned by the same family for generations. Displayed items included old tools, farm equipment, and personal belongings such as clothing, shoes, photographs, and a Bible. As I explored, I found an unlocked room. Peeking inside, I saw a chair with a blanket covering it. For some reason, I lifted the blanket, revealing a mannequin dressed in clothing. Startled, I dropped the blanket, causing the mannequin to fall. I panicked, grabbed the blanket, and rushed to hide. From my hiding spot, I observed a man descending the stairs. My heart raced. I hid the mannequin and waited. The man, presumably the owner, approached the shelf where I had placed the item. He inspected it, puzzled by its position. After a while, he left the basement. I cautiously emerged from my hiding place and fled to the barn where my mother was waiting. She was upset with me for leaving her side and scolded me for my actions. We left the ranch without making any purchases. On the drive, my sister mentioned the doll in the basement, and we discussed the possibility of the ranch being haunted. Later, my mother revealed that she had felt uneasy throughout our visit. Years passed, and I often thought about the doll and the mystery surrounding it. One day, my husband and I decided to return to the ranch. However, upon arriving, we discovered a new sign indicating it was no longer open to the public. To our disappointment, the ranch was now closed. Recently, I learned the sad reason behind the ranch's closure. The owners, an elderly couple, had passed away, leaving no heirs to carry on their legacy. The once vibrant ranch had become a shell of its former self. If you ever visit the area, I encourage you to search for the Standing Deer Ranch. I believe the owners would appreciate visitors willing to honor their memory and preserve the history of this special place. Their dream was to keep their ranch open forever. Hopefully someday it will reopen with new owners who share their passion for preserving history and offering visitors a glimpse into the past. The ranch holds immense value, and I hope it finds new life in the future. And now I'll tell you a story from my hometown. Hi, I'm a 22-year-old woman. My dad was born and raised in a small town. He worked at a factory his whole life. I was born and raised in a bigger city. But when I was 17, I went to visit him. My dad's house is quite old. The interior has barely changed since he moved in around 1980. The carpet is brown and orange, and half the light bulbs are broken. He has a lot of antiques and furniture from different eras. The wallpaper is peeling off the walls, and the kitchen has the original 1980s appliances. When I visited him as a teenager, I slept in the guest room. It was a strange room. It had an old dresser and a desk with a pink floral pattern wallpaper. It also had a huge closet. Every time I opened the closet doors, it creaked loudly. One night I was woken up by heavy footsteps in the hallway. I assumed it was my dad, but he sleeps with his mouth open and makes a weird snoring noise. So it wasn't him. I heard the steps again and I peeked out of the room. Nothing was there. The footsteps were heavy and they came from the closet. I was scared to go back into the room, so I just laid there for a while until the commotion stopped. The next morning I told my dad what I had heard, but he didn't seem to remember hearing anything. We tried to